I am a stay-at-home mom to my husband's and my toddler daughter. We've been together for 6 years, married for 2 years. My husband works in an office, usually leaving for work early in the morning and coming home for dinner. I am currently pregnant with our second child. We are in debt due to construction issues with our house. What initially was a roof replacement uncovered a multitude of problems with how the house was built and shortcuts taken by previous contractors who worked on the house under the former owners. We are living with my parents and have been since March because our home is unlivable due to water damage from the roof issues and everything else that needed to be done. We also filed a lawsuit against the previous owners and the construction companies who performed poor workmanship because our house is that much of a lemon. This is all to say that money has been tight and our living situation has been pretty stressful. My husband gets in a bad mood pretty easily. He gets annoyed about having to do things around the house that he doesn't like to do. And after he does these tasks begrudgingly, he needs time to himself to relax. One of the tasks he's been asked to do is clean out the cat litter box while my parents are out of town. My mom usually does this, and since I'm pregnant, I am unable to take care of it. The other night, he cleaned out the litter box after not doing it for 2 days, and he said it took him 20 minutes. After he did it, he just wanted to be left alone and asked me to put our daughter to bed, which he usually does so that he can spend more time with her during the day. She only gets to see him 1 or 2 hours maximum on weekdays. I said that I would, but hoped that he would cool off and change his mind before her bedtime. I was reading her a book when he asked me if she was going to bed yet, and I said not yet. So he went upstairs to our room to be alone. I eventually took her upstairs for bed, and she wanted to say goodnight to him. I was annoyed with him for being this way, so I didn't say much to him when I took her up. I also asked if he could watch her for a minute while I grabbed a diaper from downstairs because there weren't any in her room, to which he replied, "Why are you making this as difficult as possible? And why didn't you get some diapers before bringing her up here?" I said that I didn't know there weren't any diapers in her room. Anyway, I was annoyed with him for the rest of the night and kept my distance so he could watch his show on his laptop while I did other things around the house. I'm just confused about why he can't just do things and not have such an attitude problem. He got super angry at me this morning because he couldn't find any clean clothes. I had asked him multiple times in the past few weeks to not leave his dirty laundry on the floor in our bedroom and to put it in the laundry basket down the hall. Normally, I just pick it up and put it in the basket myself, but I got sick of having to do this or having to ask him to do it. The first time I asked him to do it, he replied by saying the rest of the house was a mess. So, why is his dirty laundry on the floor a problem? The second time, I asked him more nicely to just put his laundry in the basket because it would help me. He nodded. Well, the past week he just kept putting his dirty laundry on the floor, and I didn't pick it up. When it came time to do laundry, I just washed what was in the basket. When he woke up this morning, he was furious, looking for a clean shirt. He called me a dick, vindictive, and passive-aggressive. And yeah, maybe it was passive-aggressive, but it's frustrating to live with an adult who acts like a child. He was screaming at me this morning, and I still have a really bad headache from being screamed at. Am I a bad person for not picking up his dirty clothes from the floor? Typing this all out makes me feel stupid. Like this is such a stupid argument to have, but it's not the first time we've had problems like this. Honestly, I can't remember what previous fights have been about, except that I feel like he blows things out of proportion and gets unreasonably angry. I cannot deal with the yelling. I watched my mom get yelled at by my dad when I was a child, something he still does, which she just takes, and it's not something I want my daughter to accept as normal. I suggested that we go to marriage counseling this morning after he was done yelling, and we were able to talk about the laundry issue. He said it might be a good idea, but it's probably expensive and we can't afford it. But he's willing to look up exercises for us to try on our own. I don't know. What should I do? I'm really unhappy, And I feel like no considerations are made for me considering I'm watching our daughter all day on my own and am also pregnant. Like, he should not be adding to my stress. He says, I don't appreciate that he's at work all day, but actually I do. I make him lunch to bring to the office, cook him dinner, and clean the house so that he doesn't have to worry about those things. Being at work isn't the same thing as being accountable to a toddler all day. I feel like I could easily switch places with him and go back to my old job, but he wouldn't be able to handle all the things I do with our daughter all day. We take our daughter to the playground on weekends sometimes, and he's ready to leave after 15 minutes, whereas I'm normally there with her for at least an hour every day. I kind of think he should do some sort of anger management. His dad was physically hurtful with him and his siblings when they were kids, and though my husband is not physically hurtful with me, the yelling and seething are extremely unpleasant to be around. How can we manage our issues without a therapist? Now for an update, I appreciate all the comments, except the snarky ones. I looked into marriage counseling via our insurance provider and made an appointment for next week. I plan on making my boundaries extremely clear because I do not need this kind of stress in my life and refuse to repeat the cycle my parents started. If this doesn't work, then I'll take the next step toward divorce, but I want to give it a shot because he has not always been this way, and it might be something we can work on. I'm also looking into working again. We'll see. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, my husband leaves his clothes on the floor, but if he dares to ask why there are more of my clothes in the washing machine, I reply with, that's what there was in the hamper. I only wash whatever is in there. But this has happened like twice in all the years we've been together. The way your husband responded to that simple request is baffling to me. You are not his unpaid intimacy caretaker and maid. Okay, you are at home, but if he gets home from dinner, he can use his 2 hands to grab his clothes, his 2 feet to take those clothes to the washing machine, and his little wandering brain to push some buttons to start washing. It's not like he has to wash it by hand. This is beyond help. You need therapy to understand how you let it get to this point and to avoid it in the future. Comment 2. You can't. Your issue is that you found a man like your dad, and now you realize you don't want that, and you don't want it for your daughter. Yet, here you are trying to stay with an angry man, just like your mom. Your baby will be standing in her room 30 years from now, pregnant and bewildered about how she let herself get here. You can leave him and break the cycle, or you can stay and let it continue. Those are your options. Now, for the update. A few days after my last update, my husband and I went to a family barbecue at my parents' house. Yeah, that was fun. The atmosphere was so awkward and uncomfortable. My husband was acting all distant, you know? Like he was more into his phone than actually talking to anyone. My parents were talking to my brothers and sisters, and he just kind of sat there staring at his screen. My mom even asked about the marriage counseling appointment, and he just changed the subject so quickly. Like, come on, we all know he's not on board with that. So we're all sitting around the barbecue, trying to act like a normal family, and my sister Kate casually mentions that she and her fiancé are looking to buy a house. I mean, who brings that up at a family barbecue? But it gets worse. My husband overheard them talking and just tensed up like a freaking statue. Then he made this sarcastic comment about how everyone else seems to have their life together. Like, dude, you just got called out. At one point, Jake, my older brother, pulled my husband aside to talk. I saw them arguing quietly away from the group. My husband was gesturing all animatedly, like he was really worked up. I didn't hear what they were saying, but I have a feeling it was about me. He just gets all defensive when it comes to my family, and I don't get why. After the barbecue, he snapped at me about how my family was always judging him. Well, maybe if he didn't act like a jerk around them, they wouldn't be judging him all the time. The next day, I found this message on his phone from a coworker inviting him out for drinks. I confronted him about it, and he was all like, "It's just a casual invite, nothing more." Yeah, right. I'm not that naive. I wanted to surprise him, so I decided to show up at his office after work to bring him dinner. I pull up to the office, and I notice his car isn't in the parking lot. That's weird. I felt this uneasy feeling in my stomach, so I called him, but he didn't answer. So I just left the food on his desk. That was the only thing I could do at that point. Later that night, I got a text from him saying he was working late and would be home soon. When he finally arrived, he had this unusual smell of cologne that wasn't his usual scent. Like, come on, I know my husband's scent. I asked him about the drinks invitation, and he just dodged the question, changing the topic to the baby. A week later, I went to my parents' house for help with the toddler while he stayed home to rest. Yeah, right. My mom casually mentioned seeing my husband at a nearby bar last weekend with a woman. I was just sitting there, trying to act normal, but inside I was freaking out. When I got home, I confronted him directly about the bar incident. He got all defensive, calling me paranoid and accusing me of overreacting. The next day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I organized a family dinner at a restaurant, inviting everyone, including my husband. During dinner, I subtly brought up the bar incident, watching my husband's reaction closely. He froze, clearly caught off guard, but managed to laugh it off, claiming it was a misunderstanding. Then I turned to Kate and I was like, "Hey, remember that friend you mentioned who works at the bar?" I asked her for her contact information so I could get the truth. After dinner, I texted Kate's friend, asking if we could chat about what they saw. The friend agreed to meet me the next day at a coffee shop. At the coffee shop, the friend confirmed that my husband had been at the bar with a woman, sharing flirty behavior and drinks. Like, what the hell? I returned home and confronted my husband again, armed with the new information. He tried to deny everything, but eventually admitted to being at the bar. Of course, he insisted it was harmless. I told him that I was done and had already contacted a divorce lawyer. He just sat there in silence, realizing the gravity of his actions and the consequences. I spent the rest of the day packing my belongings, ready to take control of my life. Edit. I have received numerous messages advising me to remain in the home for financial reasons. However, my parents are allowing me to stay with them for as long as I need. My husband is aware of my plan to file for divorce. I have made no further attempts to reconcile with him. Am I the idiot for dumping my boyfriend after he believed a stranger over me? I am confused, shocked, and distraught. My boyfriend of 6 months went out to a bar with friends. When he called me on his way home, he was distant and upset with me. I could not tell why, but after pressing him on what was going on, he told me that a stranger had come up to him outside the bar, saw his phone wallpaper, and told him that he knew me, my first name, and that he had slept with me. The wallpaper is a collage of pictures of the two of us. According to my boyfriend, he did not ask the man any more questions since him knowing my name was enough. I told my boyfriend that I had no idea who this person could be, and my boyfriend told me the man's race. I usually don't try to use racializing language, but it was a relevant description for the context. Throughout my time living in that city, I had never been with a man of that race, gone on a date, or even exchanged numbers. I therefore could not make any sense of the situation. I was on dating apps before, where I met my boyfriend and where I had used my real name. That was the only explanation that came to mind for me. My boyfriend then repeatedly hung up on me and expressed a lot of doubt in my telling the truth. He ended the call saying to take care and that he had a lot to think about. I feel hurt that he does not trust me, despite me being loyal, honest, and caring deeply for him. Him not even asking for more details and just taking this man's word is super hurtful. Like anyone who knows my face and name could do the same. I love him, but I can't help but feel that it was also somewhat hurtful towards me. If he comes around and actually believes me, what boundaries should I set if something like that happened again? How can I show him that he can trust me? To add, now for an update, we talked. He says he trusts me. He said his past trauma with cheating was triggered big time. One curious detail was that someone in the friend group had asked him about being single. He told her no, showing his lock screen and all. She then said he should at least hear her out, that her friend is also half Thai, etc. My boyfriend shut that down and walked away. She was also there at the bar they went to after where the whole situation transpired. Maybe she had something to do with that guy coming up to my boyfriend. Obviously, there is no proof, But her insisting he give her friend a chance is clearly overstepping a boundary that my boyfriend was also setting. I genuinely trust my boyfriend to be loyal, and his friends always tell me how I am special and not like the women he has been with before, that they don't know what I did to him, but that he is absolutely head over heels for me. I love him, and when he said he trusts me, it really was such a relief. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You should know right now that if a man believes something like that you cannot prove isn't true, there is nothing you can do to make him trust you. Your boyfriend is showing you who he is. Believing a stranger over you, hanging up on you repeatedly. Honestly, I even find myself wondering whether the encounter with the man outside the bar ever actually took place. What if, while your boyfriend was in the bar, he cheated on you and didn't want you to know, so he told you a made-up story to put you on the back foot, make you desperately want to show him you love him and want him back? I mean, someone is lying here, but we only have your boyfriend's word this other man even exists. Why should you trust him? Comment 2. I have a very distinguishing tattoo, and I think somewhere down there is a mole. I don't think your boyfriend is telling the truth, but you could tell him that if a man can't describe what you look like down south, then obviously you're innocent. It could be anything from the way you shave to anything else. But I saw that someone said they don't believe the boyfriend's story. I agree it would be rather hard to see a picture of you that was a collage, unless he's focused on it on purpose. The story just seems implausible. Now, for the update. A week after my boyfriend and I had that deep talk about the stranger, I got this text from him asking to meet at the bowling alley. It was kinda our place, where we went just to have fun. So I knew he didn't want to do this over text. I was a bit nervous, but I figured this was a good sign. I got there early and just ordered a soda while I waited for him to show up. Just sitting there, waiting, my mind was racing with all kinds of thoughts. I wanted to believe everything was going to be okay, and this was just a little bump in the road. When he finally showed up, he looked kinda tense. Like the minute he walked in, he just went straight to the point and brought up everything that happened with the stranger. He told me he spoke to his friend, the one who suggested he think about someone else. And yeah, that just added to the tension. Apparently, his friend had a lot to say about that too. My boyfriend then told me that he had actually seen the guy again, but this time at a coffee shop nearby. Like, what are the odds? I mean, what are the odds he would see that guy again? So he said it made him feel really uneasy. He was worried that the stranger might approach him again, and we all know that would cause more issues. So I suggested maybe we should just avoid that part of town for a while, just to be safe. We tried to lighten the mood a bit, so we went bowling. The game was filled with awkward silence, you know? We laughed a little when we got gutter balls, but it was just so weird. Totally not the vibe we usually have. After a few rounds, he admitted he had been feeling paranoid since the incident. It was messing with his work and focus. I mean, I get it. I was feeling the same way, but I think I was just really trying to hold it together. We finished up bowling and walked to a diner for dinner. Honestly, he seemed really distracted the whole time. When we got to the diner, he got a phone call from that same friend and went outside to take it, leaving me alone at the table. While I was waiting for him to come back, I overheard little snippets from his conversation. I heard him mention the girl and how he should just go for it. My heart dropped. When he came back, I just asked casually who he was talking to, and he brushed it off like it was no big deal. We finished dinner, but the atmosphere was just heavy with unspoken words. The next weekend was his family's annual barbecue. I really wanted to skip it, but I knew I had to go. I knew if I didn't, it would just make things worse. His family was super welcoming like they always are, and I tried to engage with them, but my mind was just elsewhere. I overheard his sister talking about how her brother should date someone more adventurous. That got under my skin a bit, but I just brushed it off. As the night went on, my boyfriend's friend showed up uninvited. Like, what a jerk move. It made the atmosphere so awkward. The friend immediately approached my boyfriend and whispered something that made him visibly uncomfortable. I didn't even try to hide it. I was eavesdropping. He noticed and gave me this sharp look, making me step back. After the friend left, I confronted my boyfriend about what I overheard. He just dismissed it, saying it was a joke and that I was overreacting. I was about to argue, but his mom called us inside for dessert, and it was like we had to put on a facade for everyone. We sat at the table. I noticed everyone was sharing laughs, but we were just silent. After dessert, we left the barbecue early, and the car ride home was so quiet. He dropped me off at my place, and before I could say anything, he got out of the car and just walked away. A few days later, I got a text from him asking to meet again at the diner. I was hesitant to respond, like I didn't know if I should. When I got there, he was sitting with his friend, the one who was at the barbecue. The friend left as soon as he saw me. It made my boyfriend uncomfortable. We started talking about our relationship, but it turned into accusations and defensiveness. It was like we were just going around in circles. I decided to end the relationship. I knew that was the only way to regain my sense of self. I realized I had lost myself in this relationship, and I needed to find myself again, even if it meant losing him. Edit. A few people asked about how long we were together. The answer is about 1.5 years. It was a good amount of time, and I thought we were doing well, but I guess I was wrong. I really didn't want to break up like this, but I felt like it was the only option left. We're currently on a break from each other. I know we need some space, but it's been hard figuring out life without him. I hope we can both heal and move forward. Am I the idiot for feeling betrayed after my wife confessed her obsession with my younger brother? I am a 35-year-old man who has been married to my wife, who is 30, for 2 years. We were in a live-in relationship for about 2 years before that, so we've been together for a total of 5 years. We met online. She told me early on that she had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. We hit it off well and got serious. She was living with her hurtful mother, and they had trouble living under the same roof. So, after a year of our relationship, during Infection 19, we started living together. We were so in love. After marriage, she moved into my house. I lived with my mother, who left soon after our marriage, leaving just me and my younger brother, who is 13 years younger than me, 18 then and 22 now. One day, my wife confessed to me that she is obsessed with my brother, saying that she thinks about him all the time. She told me her thoughts have entirely redirected toward him, and it has plagued her mind. She started saying that she suffers from intense anxiety whenever she is in close proximity to my brother. She was also dealing with her borderline personality disorder along with schizophrenia. She said she heard our neighbors' voices talking badly about her. I was heartbroken. I took her to a psychiatrist and got her to see a therapist. My brother eventually left the house to study abroad, and with medication, my wife told me she was getting better. But that was not the case. She was still obsessed with him, and when he came home during his holidays, her anxiety returned. The first time she told me she had these feelings for my brother, something inside me shut off. I stopped finding her sexually attractive at all. We've had intimacy about 4 to 5 times in 2 years, whereas we used to have intimacy 4 to 5 times a day. She also opened up about having a similar obsession with a college friend of hers when we were living together before marriage. She tells me she would never act on it, and that she loves me. But when I talk about separation, she cries. There's always this looming fear that she might commit unalived, as she has attempted it a couple of times before. I feel so lost, and even though nothing intimacy happened, I feel cheated. She says she has no control over it and calls it limerence. She also mentioned that her sister, who is currently in an hurtful marriage, has similar issues. I am deeply bothered by this, even though I have tried to do the right thing by being by her side and helping her as much as I could. She cried a lot when I mentioned separation. She says she loves me a lot and has no control over her thoughts. Is my attraction toward her gone? Will it be rekindled? Should we separate? What should I do? I'm so confused overall, but I hope I have written most things down. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yep, that's borderline personality disorder for you. The subreddit for loved ones of people with borderline personality disorder may be better placed to offer help, though brace yourself for some pessimistic answers, which unfortunately are often very much needed. Whether she has borderline personality disorder or not, she can't expect a relationship to thrive or even survive after you confess that you obsess over your partner's sibling in a romantic or intimacy way. Comment 2. Just for clarity, keep her away from your brother. However, you are not equipped to manage, help, or be in a relationship with someone with this number of mental health issues. Now for the update. I'm not sure there's any point in continuing this relationship. I guess it's time for a divorce. A month after my last update, everything still feels stuck. Can't say it's better or worse. Something just feels off. Wife has been spending more time on her phone, especially at night. It used to be that we both went to bed around the same time. Now she stays up late, scrolling on her phone or texting. One evening, I walked into the living room and saw her texting someone. She quickly put her phone down when she saw me. I casually asked her who she was texting, and she changed the subject. I tried to let it go, thinking maybe it was harmless chatting. A week later, we went to my parents' house for dinner. The atmosphere was tense. My dad made a toast, and I noticed my wife seemed distracted, fiddling with her phone under the table. After dinner, I caught her stepping outside to take a call in the driveway. I tried to brush it off, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was up. The following weekend, we went to my brother's birthday party. I was looking forward to it, but things got weird. During the party, I saw my wife laughing a bit too hard at a joke from my brother's friend. This guy had flirted with her before, and it made me uncomfortable. I stepped away to get a drink and overheard her talking to one of my brother's friends about her feelings for my brother. Not cool. The next day, I found a message on her phone from her college friend saying they should meet up to talk about everything. When I confronted her, she said it was just a friendly catch-up. I insisted on knowing why she couldn't tell me she was meeting someone else. She got defensive and said it wasn't what it seemed. The distance between us felt even greater. Later that week, I went to a family event for my sister's graduation. My wife didn't come, saying she was feeling unwell. I thought it was odd. At the event, I overheard my sister talking about a rumor that my wife had been seen out with someone else. I asked for details, but my sister didn't have any concrete information. I returned home feeling unsettled and confronted my wife about her absence. She said she just needed space. I decided to take a weekend trip to clear my mind. I returned home early on Sunday and found her sitting in the living room with my brother. They were laughing together, and when they saw me, the atmosphere changed. I asked my brother to leave. I felt blindsided by their sudden friendship. After he left, I confronted her about why she didn't tell me he was visiting. She claimed it was spontaneous. A few days later, I discovered she had been deleting texts from her college friend. I demanded to see her phone, but she refused. She accused me of not trusting her. I suggested couples therapy, but she dismissed the idea. The following weekend, I found a receipt from a nearby restaurant in her bag after she came home late. I learned she had gone to meet her college friend without telling me. When I confronted her, she admitted to meeting him, but insisted it was just for closure. We then decided to separate temporarily. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I am exhausted. I know she has borderline personality disorder, but I can't do this anymore. Mini update, I moved out to give us both space. The past month has been quieter, which has helped me think. My wife has been reaching out a lot, asking to talk and check on me, but I've kept things brief. We decided to keep our separation for now, but I'm not sure that's the answer. I went to see her therapist on my own, and it was a bit of an eye-opener. She talked about my wife's childhood and how it affects her relationships. It made me more understanding of her actions, but I'm still really torn about all of this. I'm thinking of talking to my wife in person soon. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.